everyone. Today we're going to start with a new unit from the Blue Book, that is Unit 36, which deals with the weak forms of auxiliary verbs. In this unit we're going to see how auxiliary verbs will be pronounced when they are used in questions and sentences. So the stress pattern strong, weak, weak, strong, the one that you can see here, is a very common rhythm or stress pattern in questions beginning with WH words like when, where, what, etc. So these words, when they are used as question words, they are of course followed by auxiliary verbs. And these auxiliary verbs and the pronouns which they are included in the questions will be pronounced in weak forms. In other words, they will be unstressed. So for example, we have a typical question in English would consist of the WH word, the question word, which should be stressed, then the auxiliary, which should be unstressed, then the pronoun, which also should be unstressed, and then the main verb, which should be stressed. So we will have strong, weak, weak, strong stress pattern. So for example, we have the question, what do you think? Now listen, what do you think? In careful pronunciation, we say, what do you think? But in connected speech, when we try to say such a question in a normal way, in a conversation, we tend to unstress the auxiliary do and unstress the pronoun you. So the question would be pronounced as this: what do you do? Or what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Instead of saying, what do you think? What do you think? So this is the way we tend to pronounce the auxiliaries and the pronouns in WH questions. We tend to unstress the auxiliary and the pronouns. So we will have the stress pattern for such question would be strong, weak, weak, strong. So listen to these examples. You will hear each one twice. First in careful speech and then in fast speech. Notice how in fast speech the vowel is very weak in the auxiliary do and does. So I'm going to pronounce all of these questions in two different ways. Once in careful speech and then in fast speech, in connected speech. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live? What does he mean? What does he mean? What does he mean? Where does he work? Where does he work? Where does he work? So does and he are unstressed. What did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Why did you go? Why did you go? Why did you go? So in fast speech, in connected speech, in conversation style, we tend to use unstressed pronunciation with the auxiliaries and the pronouns in the middle. So the stress pattern of simple question in English would be strong, weak, weak, strong. This is the basic fact that you need to keep in mind. Other auxiliaries are also usually unstressed in questions. Listen, note that the speaker does not pronounce the first letters of the auxiliaries will, have, and has. So listen carefully. What will he do? That's very careful speech, but in fast speech it would be what will he do? What will he do? We don't say will, we say ill. What will he do? What have I done? what have I done? We don't say have, we say of. What have I done? Where has she been? Where's she been? Where's she been? Where can you see? What can you see? What can you see? What can you see? So in this way, when we use such questions in fast speech, we tend to pronounce auxiliaries and pronouns in very weak forms, in very unstressed manner. Auxiliaries are stressed in negative contractions and at the end of sentences. So previously we saw how auxiliaries have to be used or pronounced with unstressed patterns. So instead of saying do, we say d. Instead of saying him, we say m. And instead of saying does, we say us. Instead of saying will, we say l. But if these auxiliaries are used with not, if they are used in negative constructions, في حالة النفي, these auxiliaries should always be stressed. They should always be pronounced with the strong form. Once we use not with these auxiliaries, they should always be strong, unlike when they are affirmative without the not or without the negative construction. So the other case in which we pronounce these auxiliaries as strong, not as weak, when they fall at the end of the sentence. So now we have two cases in which we pronounce auxiliaries as strong syllables or as stressed syllables. If they are used with not, if they are used in negative constructions, في حالة النفي, and the other case when they fall at the end of the sentence, عندما تقع هذه الأفعال المساعدة عند نهاية الجملة. في هاتين الحالتين يجب أن يكون اللفظ مشدد, strong or stressed. Otherwise, if they are in the middle and they are affirmative, they should be unstressed. So let's see the examples where we have to stress the auxiliaries, which they are either at the end or used with not. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Strong. Do. We don't say de, as we saw with the example, where do you live? We don't say de, we say do, because it falls at the end of the sentence, so it has to be stressed. I don't know. I don't know, because it is used with the not, because it's used in a negative construction, then do here has to be stressed. I don't know. Yes, I will. We don't say L, just like we saw previously. We say will in full. We pronounce the word in full and with a stress syllable, because it falls at the end of the sentence. لأن موقعها في نهاية الجملة. He won't say. He won't say. Strong syllable. Why? Because it is used with not. Because won't here is composed of will plus not. So, and whenever we use the auxiliary in negative construction, it has to be stressed. Yes, I have, because it falls at the end of the sentence. I haven't done it. I haven't. Strong. Why? Because it is used with auxiliary with the not, the negative construction. Yes, I can. Strong, because it falls at the end of the sentence. I can't help. Strong, because it is used with not, the negative construction. So auxiliaries are always are usually pronounced as weak syllables, but if they fall at the end of the sentence, they should be strong, or if they are used with not, then they have to be strong as well. So these are the three main cases of pronouncing auxiliaries. So let's see what we have here. Please note that auxiliaries can also be stressed for emphasis or contrast. When we are trying to emphasize something, or we are trying to compare one auxiliary with another, then it has to be strong as well. So for example, I'm not English, but I am British. Here, the word am, even though it's an auxiliary, but it has to be stressed because this compound sentence functions as a contrast between two different parts. I'm not English, but I'm British. So am has to be emphasized here. It has to be pronounced with stressed syllable because the sentence includes some kind of comparison between being English and being British. And of course, English refers to England, British refers to Britain, which is much bigger than England because it includes Wales and Scotland as well. So in very fast speech, some speakers pronounce many of these questions with only 3 syllables. Now back to the first case where we don't stress the auxiliaries. What do you want? But in fast speech, in conversation, even though they have 4 words, each word with a single syllable, which should be pronounced with 4 syllables, but in fast speech, native speakers tend to pronounce these sentences as 3 syllables only, rather than 4. So how do they say it? What do you mean? What do you want? What do you want? Do you want? What does he do? What does he do? Where have you been? Where have you been? 3 syllables. Where did he go? Where did he go? Where did he go? 3 syllables. Where did he go? So in many cases, native speakers tend to pronounce these 4-syllable questions in 3 syllables only because they tend to combine certain words together and drop certain consonants to make these 4-syllable questions as 3 syllables only. So let's move to the exercises. We'll skip this exercise because this requires that we listen to a soundtrack. Let's move to the next one. 36.2, write the questions in the conversation and give the stress patterns. Then listen, check, and repeat. Listen, check, and repeat the questions. So we have sentences that we need to guess, what the question is. We have the answer for the question. We have to guess what the question is, and the question we have to also write the stress pattern for each question that we will figure out or write down. So we'll start with the example. We have, I'm a doctor. So that's the answer for the question, what do you do? And what do you do is a question with a stress pattern, strong, weak, weak, strong. In a similar way, we'll try to figure out what these questions are, and then we will identify the stress pattern for each one. So let's start with number 1. I live in Kingston, Jamaica. I live in Kingston, Jamaica. So what do you think the question would be? What type of question this sentence would be the answer for? ما هو نوع السؤال اللي ممكن هذه الجملة تكون جواب إله? Of course, the question would be something like, where do you live? Where do you live? And where do you live is a sentence with 4 syllables, and the stress pattern would be strong, weak, weak, strong. Why? Because what? Strong. The auxiliary in the middle, weak. You, pronoun, weak. And then live, a verb, strong. So that would be strong, weak, weak, strong. Number two, the answer is I work in the university hospital. I work in the university hospital. So what do you think the question would be? The question could be something like, where do you work? Where do you work? And the stress pattern would be strong, weak, weak, strong. Why? Because we're strong, weak, weak, and then work is a verb, should be strong. So that would make it strong, weak, weak, strong. Number three, the answer or the sentence is yes, I'm married. My husband is a teacher. So what do you think the question would be? The question could be something like, are you married? Are you married? And this question is a yes no question composed of three words. Are you married? But in connected speech, in fast speech, we tend to pronounce R as unstressed syllable, just as schwa, a, which is weak, weak. Married is even though it's a single word, but it is composed of two syllables. Married, two syllables. So the stress pattern for this question would be something like weak, weak, strong, weak.